Three flags for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is public comments or questions concerning today's agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, and the first is to approve the agenda, but needs to be one addition to it, and that is under old business. We need to add under number 2 an amendment to the agenda to include a motion under old business to table the awarding of the bids for the Springbrook Road over Ravels Creek Bridge replacement project until July 19th.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to include that provision.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so then we have a motion to approve the agenda, approve the July 5th, 2023 agenda with that addition.
Motion.
Second. Motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the June 21st, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the June 28th, 2023 conference minutes.
Motion. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the payment of general funds in the amount of $275,682.46.
Motion. And second.
Motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve payment from the bridge repair account in the amount of $12,451.29.
Motion. And second.
Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to acknowledge receipt from Warden Lowe advising that he has hired John Avery with prison board approval as a full-time maintenance staff member for the Pike County Correctional Facility for a 40-hour work week effective July 10th, 2023. Benefits after 90 days. This is a replacement position.
Motion. Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to acknowledge receipt of Warden Lowe advising that he has hired with prison board approval the following individuals as full-time correctional officers for the correctional facility for a 40-hour work week effective July 10th, 2023 with benefits after 90 days. These are replacement positions: David Almodovar, Sierra Covenger, boy, could you come up with some other names, Everett Jean, and Stuart Pozo.
Motion.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to acknowledge receipt from Warden Lowe advising that he is hired with prison board approval of the following individuals as full-time administrative clerks for a 40-hour work week effective July 10th, 2023 with benefits after 90 days. These are replacement positions: Tanya Torres, and Mary Ann Kennedy.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to hire Austin Conklin as a part-time training assistant for the training center for less than 1,000 hours per year effective July 10, 2023. This is a replacement position.
Motion?
And second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to hire Timothy Knapp Jr. as a part-time training assistant for the training center for less than 1,000 hours per year effective July 10, 2023. This is a replacement position.
Motion?
And second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to create the position of a part-time dietitian in the area agency on aging for less than 1,000 hours per year.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to hire Robin Skibber as a part-time dietitian for the area agency on aging for less than 1,000 hours per year effective July 3rd, 2023.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to recess the commissioners meeting to hold a salary board meeting.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Salary board. Motion to approve the June 7th, 14th, and 28th salary board minutes.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to set the hourly rate of John Avery at $21 per hour as a full-time maintenance staff member for the correctional facility for a 40-hour work week effective July 10th, 2023.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to set the hourly rate of the following individuals at $25.46 per hour as full-time correctional officers for the correctional facility for a 40-hour work week effective July 10th, 2023. David Almodovar, Sierra Clevenger, Everett Jean, and Stuart Pozo.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to set the hourly rate of the following individuals at $16 per hour as full-time administrative clerks for a 40-hour work week effective July 10, 2023, with benefits after 90 days. These are replacement positions.
Motion?
Tanya Torres,
Oh, sorry.
Mary Ann Kennedy.
I apologize. Motion?
Motion. Second. Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to set the hourly rate of Austin Conklin at $15 per hour as part-time training assistant for the training center for less than 1,000 hours per year effective July 10, 2023.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to set the hourly rate of Timothy Knapp Jr. at $15 per hour as part-time training assistants for the training center for less than 1,000 hours per year effective July 10, 2023.
Motion?
Second. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to set the hourly rate of Robin Skibber at $35 per hour as a part-time dietitian for the area agency on aging for less than 1,000 hours per year effective July 3rd, 2023.
Motion?
Second. Motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to reconvene the commissioners meeting.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Old business. Motion to authorize the chairman to execute change order number 2 for the Pike County Oviedo Turnpike repaving project.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is the amendment. So this is a motion to amend the agenda to include a motion under old business to table the awarding of bids for the Springbrook Road over Rattlesnake Creek Bridge replacement project until July 19th meeting.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. All-
The motion.
Yeah.
The motion is to table.
Yeah, motion seems to be tabled.
Table, yes, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I said it, I said table.
when you had said the amendment.
Oh, okay.
Right, first part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So,
So we're tabling the awarding until the July 19th meeting.
and I'll make that motion.
And I'll second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business. Motion to approve the following human service payment vouchers on behalf of the Office of Human Services State Food Purchase Program in the amount of $14,076.93. Fair in the amount of $2,266.39. Human Service Development Fund in the amount of $417, and Homeless Assistance Program in the amount of $4,097.87.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
2. Motion to approve the Affordable Housing Fund payment voucher in the amount of $3,442 payable to Delaware Road on behalf of the Office of Human Services.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the Affordable Housing Fund payment voucher in the amount of $3,488 payable to Delaware Run on behalf of the Office of Human Services.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the chairman to execute the contract for professional services between Hailstone Economic LLC and the County of Pike on behalf of the Office of Human Services.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to reappoint Deborah Fisher to the Pike County Workforce Development Board as private sector member for a 3-year term effective July 5th, 2023 through June 30th, 2026.
Motion.
Second. Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion to reappoint Lori Phillips to the Pike County Workforce Development Board as a private sector member for a 3-year term effective July 5th, 2023 through June 30th, 2023.
I think it should be 26.
26, right? Sorry. Okay, so with that change.
Motion.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the chairman to execute the service agreement between Beach Lake Sprinkler Fire Protection Services and the County of Pike on behalf of the correctional facility as recommended by the prison board.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the chairman to execute the Guardian RFID system agreement renewal between Guardian RFID and the County of Pike on behalf of the correctional facility as recommended by the prison board.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the chairman to execute the immigration agreement modification on behalf of the correctional facility as recommended by the prison board.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the chairman to execute the FEMA Hazardous Mitigation Assistance Unified Grant Program, non-disaster grants letter of interest on behalf of the Planning and Mapping Office.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to execute the third quarter fiscal year 22-23 Act 148 invoice certification statement on behalf of the Children and Youth Services.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to execute the agreement between Services Access and Management Incorporated and the County of Pike on behalf of the Children and Youth Services.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to execute the purchase of service agreement between Michael A. Church, PhD, and the County of Pike on behalf of Children and Youth Services.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to execute the agreement for subcontracted services between Destiny Empowerment and the County of Pike on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to execute the agreement for subcontracted services between Caregivers of America LLC and the County of Pike on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion to execute the agreement for subcontracted services between Traditional Home Care LLC and the County of Pike on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to execute the agreement for subcontracted services between Above the Rest Home Care LLC and the County of Pike on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the fiscal year 2023 first quarter payment from the Pike County Emergency Medical Services Matching Grant Fund to Matamoros in the amount of $6,050.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the fiscal year 2023 second quarter payments from the Pike County Emergency Medical Service Matching Grant Fund to the following municipalities. Dingman Township in the amount of $88,005.60. Black-Waxen Township in the amount of $82,712.53. Milford Township in the amount of $15,000. Jehovah Township in the amount of $48,199. And Lehman Township in the amount of $85,011.80.
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, under miscellaneous, we have the Pike County Extension calendar of events for us to take note of, and then we have, I believe, Joe Gamboni is here to speak to us on an event that Representative Joseph Adams is putting on July 27, 2023.
It's just an open house, the representative's having, he's your new representative. So he will be having an open house on July 27th from 3 to 6 at our office in Harley. We're located at 2523 Route 6. We're up a little bit from the Welcome Center in Harley. So come and see what we can help you out with on the state level. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to press and public comment. Chris?
Quick one. What's this immigration agreement modification? New members of
That's the prison board. That has to do with the meeting of clients and detainees, correct? We had to provide a modification to give them a separate room so that they can do some video conferencing with their attorneys. This has to do with our contract we have with ICE up there. And this was a modification that ICE has put through and asked us to modify the contract.
And that all comes under immigration. It's INS, right? I mean, who runs it?
ICE.
Immigration Customs Enforcement.
Yes, yes. That's who our contract is with.
Right.
Those are holding the detainees. Yep.
What happened to the state police?
There was a conflict and they couldn't show up. We had it all arranged up until Monday, I believe, right? Monday at 4 o'clock. And they notified us that they could not make it. So we're going to reschedule that when they tell us when they're available.
It's an interesting.
We are working with the Heritage Affairs section of the Pennsylvania State Police to have them do a more formal presentation for us, whether it's here or whether it's going to be in conjunction with schools. We haven't nailed that down. But we hope to do that within the next month in all likelihood.
Presentation
Regarding hate crime issues and concerns related to Pike County. And unfortunately, the focus has been in recent years, in the last year or two, towards the LGBTQ community, but it's not limited to that. It's other communities, minorities.
and that's under heritage.
There's a division of the Pennsylvania State Police called the Heritage Affairs section, and they're actually under the community engagement section that we heard from the officer that heads up that community engagement division. And their job is to interact with the community and try and avoid problems. It's more to try and avoid problems than it is to prosecute and arrest. But,
Is that uniformed officers or are they civilians?
well, I don't know. We haven't had enough contact with them. We do know that there are uniformed officers.
Yep.
We've even had a chat with an undercover officer who wasn't wearing a uniform for what it is. I'm not going to indicate who that is, but so it's a mix. I don't know whether the people in Harrisburg, where that is headquartered, whether they wear uniforms or not. I don't know. They have
Their titles,
They have ranks.
lieutenant.
They have ranks.
You know, there's some type of ranking official in Pennsylvania State.
One last quick one, it's kind of 14 here. What the heck is Destiny Empowerment? Destiny Empowerment.
These are organizations that are contracted through the Area Agency on Aging. You know, Robin brings these are contracts that we've had for years. There are different types of support groups that are given to the agency up there at the agency. I would have to ask Robin what it is. We defer to the directors of them. It could be either Robin now, actually, because there's a new
That's
Robin.
right. Robin Soares is our new director, taking over for Robin Skipper, who's retired. Back at one of our previous meetings, we honored.
Chris, you can find out.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Yeah, and she probably has it right there.
That's it for me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can I come to the podium?
There you go.
Okay, so I have before you the
Sorry, do you want to identify who you are for the record?
Vito DiBiase, Friends of the Milford Aquifer.
Okay.
But also representing myself too.
Okay.
This is the phone number and address and information for the Attorney General. If you continue to say that I am a bull-faced liar on issues pertaining to the warehouse aquifer, I am going to ask for an investigation into and put you guys under oath. Okay? The EDA, the Economic Development Authority, all the people that attend that, and myself. And then we'll see what's going on actually, all right? Because I want to defend myself, and I also want to get to the bottom so that the people know and the taxpayers know that every time I've come here, I've asked you, are you involved in the warehouses? And a lot of times I get application that no, we have nothing to do with it. But we have the minutes from the EDA, and I have posted those, and I have them right here. So either we can do it now and ask and properly answer the questions, or we can do it under an investigation. So I would ask you a few questions. I have a few right to know forms ready to go, and simply, according to the minutes, in January of 2022 through April of 2022, you had a contest for warehouses, and you had 4 bidders. And the contest was for the 44.7 acres in the Milford Township and the 91.84 acres in Dingley Township. Did you have that contest at the EDA? Are you the chairman of the EDA?
I'm gonna defer, you know what, this isn't a trial, and I'm not gonna,
Well, it's public comment period, which I think you know that, okay? And so there's a public comment period here, and I'm concerned about the threat of report to the Attorney General and an investigation if the commissioners don't answer questions at your command right now. I think that's a very questionable assertion. So I think it should just remain a public comment period, sir.
Okay. So, well, can I ask questions at least? I mean,
well, you can ask questions, and the commissioners are free to answer those questions or not answer those questions because it's a public comment period.
Okay.
I'm just going to weigh in, Vico, and say, I resent the idea that you would say that you're going to report something to the Attorney General. The job of the Pennsylvania State Attorney General is to investigate crimes. The idea that there's been some crime committed because there's a differing opinion of your view of the facts and cherry picking versus the reality is not a basis for a crime. So you can go ahead and contact the Attorney General all you want. It's not going to do you any good. And the idea that we have to be tried by you because you won't accept the information that's been provided to you on numerous occasions, both at this meeting and because I've been attending the EDA meetings, it's unfortunate that your people aren't following how often you're told what the reality is and you refuse to accept it. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to know the reality, okay? Have you marketed the warehouses on those 2 acres, the 2 parcels, 44.7 and the 91.84? Have you marketed them, and did you get, and I have a right to know here, did you get plans? When you had that contest, they must have submitted some kind of scoping plans in order for you to get, for them to be picked. And the National Land Developers obviously won that contest because they submitted plans or scoping sketches that showed that whatever they had planned for the Milford Township part and the Dingley Township part, the 400,000 square foot warehouse in the Milford Township part and the 500,000 square foot warehouse in the Dingley Township part. So I'm going to ask for those sketches.
Normally submit the.
Well, I'm doing that because
we'll submit it to our right to know officer.
Right to know officer. And there's 5 days to respond to that.
Okay.
But you haven't submitted this previously, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is brand new.
No.
It's not us anyway. You're bringing it to the wrong person. You filled this out to the Pike County Economic Development Authority.
It's separate.
This is not
This is not the Pike County Economic Development.
That is a separate
But
entity.
you're the chairman.
I'm not the right to know officer. And if plans were submitted, I don't know. But after you start to bring in the Attorney General office, I'm not answering nothing. Okay? I've already stated 1,000,000 times what our role is in the Economic Development Authority, how we go about identifying companies that come into this county and offering that information to local realtors who then submit parcels of land where this is able to be done by zoning, and then that applicant goes to the township. There's a number of them going on right now throughout the county, not just this. So, now that you bring up the Attorney General, I'll defer to that attorney.
Okay. In terms of the minutes for the Economic Development Authority, I have minutes here. We used to get the Executive Director's report. That's why I have January, February, March, April, May, June of 2022. But then after that, you stop posting the Executive Director's report, and I have a number of times when you just have a sentence, and the sentence says...
Who's you? Is this the EDA?
Yeah.
This
We're
is
talking about the
the
EDA. So that's not this board. That's not this There's not the commissioners.
Well, I want this to be publicly known, that they put here Sullivan updated the boards on trends, correspondence, and market activities from the previous month. But what trends, correspondence, and market activities?
But
So
what does that have to do with, what does the Economic Development Authority's minutes and the accuracy or completeness of their minutes have to do with this board, the Pike County Commissioners?
because Matt is the executive director of that. I mean, the chairman of
I
that.
run the meetings, yep, and you should come to our meeting. And you've been to our meetings.
And I ask every time, are you still marketing the warehouse projects on those particular properties? And also noted in these minutes, you're also looking at the 230 acres on the other side of I-84. So when I went to the April 5th meeting, I have in my notes that I asked the question, are you marketing the warehouses around that interchange? And Mike Sullivan said yes. Okay, and he said he's going to continue to do so. And when I went in June 6th, I asked Mike Sullivan the same thing. Are you going to continue to market the warehouses around the I-84 interchange? And he said yes. Okay. Since you're not going to answer any other questions, that's all I want to show you. And then the last thing I'll show you is that I'm also going to put in a right to know about the minutes. I want to have all the minutes.
Minutes of whom?
From the EDA. Okay.
Okay. Not this board.
To show the pattern that they used to put the executive director's report, and then they stopped. Then they started off and on. January they did not. February they had 3 sentences. March they did not. And then since then they have like 3 sentences about it. And I'm going to contact the right to know to see if that is proper minute taking. And all I'm trying to get, no matter if you want to answer now, is I understand the role that you have, but you also have a role of inviting these people and having contests, okay? It's in the minutes, so I'm shaking.
In whose minutes?
The EDA
Yeah, the
minutes.
EDA minutes.
Yes.
Right.
It's not the EDA.
Okay, this is not the EDA. You're conflating two separate agencies,
Okay, well then
two bodies.
how do I get public notice that this is what's going on at the EDA?
You go to the meeting and you bring that up, which you have done.
Which we have done.
Yeah,
It's a public meeting, the public's invited to attend it.
Yeah, but I think the public should know what's going on at the EDA.
And so they can come to the meeting, certainly.
No, I think the public should know what's going on, the voter taxpayers should know what's going on at the EDA. And if this is not the proper place, then maybe it is the Attorney General. Where else am I supposed to go to get that answer? That number one, you keep obfuscating about, oh, we don't do this, we're not involved, and yet you have contests where you have 4 bidders. I have it. It's right here in the list.
You know what, while we don't have to answer questions, to put some of this to rest, so that
Yeah.
the public hears the right side of this,
Yeah.
okay? There was never a contest conducted by the EDA. There were bids submitted to the realtor. Chant Realtors had that property listed, and there were 4 bids submitted to the realtor. That's,
Can I read it? It
you can
says,
read it.
Joe Marley recently won the competition.
That's right, because he was the high bidder to the realtor.
That's a competition.
The only thing we did was to market the property. The sale and who gets the bid and what agreement is accepted is done through realtors, not through the EDA. But
You're gonna
you have a
continue.
hard time listening.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Continue to obfuscate about this. It's right here. Recently won the competition.
Right, but our competition,
Not ours.
It didn't say the EDA competition. We don't do that. The EDA does not do that.
All
We
right.
don't have the ability to sell somebody's property.
You know, at the last meeting, you asked these same questions, and we told you, we don't run the competition. We didn't market the property. There's been a for sale sign on that property up there for decades. Does not say EDA on it. It says It says a real estate company on it. They're the ones. So you're reading that to be that there's a competition, like we were out there asking these people to compete. We weren't. All we heard back from the real estate agency is that there was a number of people bidding on the property.
Okay, in your March 1st, from 2022, you said 4 bidders on the 91.84 acres hopefully will have a 500,000 square foot purpose building in Dingman Township. So who's hopefully?
Well, the economic,
EDA.
we've already explained that the EDA
Is
does
hopeful.
economic development in this county, all over the county.
Yeah.
Not just those 4 corners, Shahola, Greentown, every place in this county. That's what, the Rice Market was pushed along by the EDA. The nursing home down in Westfall was pushed along by EDA. This is not, this is the whole county. Mr. Sullivan is just using the terminology that there was competition going on. People were bidding on the property. Okay.
And he's hopeful.
We don't have a vote on it though. So now what do? And this is what we've explained to you at the last meeting. We get the applications in that say we want to build this in our county. They send it to the realtors identify property. Mike takes the things and sends it to whoever is inquiring, and they go to the realtors and say, okay, we want to investigate this property. That's it.
Okay, let's put it in different terminology. Is Mike Sullivan currently and actively marketing those properties?
He's actively marketing the county of Pike.
Right.
That's his job. Right. That's what he
In
does.
that, in,
All of it. Yep, that property too. Every
Yeah.
parcel of
Okay.
property in this county is being
so
marketed
let
by
me
Mike
just
Sullivan.
frame it.
Through, wait a minute. Marketing is a tough thing. Through local realtors.
Okay.
He does not have listings. He doesn't have a real estate office over there that looks at that. He sends it out. There was just one sent out because we get these. He sent it out to, I think there's 42 realtors on his email list. And he sends it out and says, I have this company looking to do X, Y, and Z in Pike County. Do you have any pieces of property that are applicable for it? He gets back the information. We've explained this to you like 10 times. Wait, nope. He gets it back. He then shares it with, sometimes it's NEPA, sometimes it's the governor's action team, sometimes it's bigger companies that deal with what I'll call headhunters looking for properties. He sends it back to them and says, here, contact Chant, contact Hashlight, contact these. Here's the land that they have listed. And then that's it.
Okay, so just one, I want to focus one thing, narrow down now. You said at the last meeting it's your job to market these things.
Market the county.
Market the county.
Correct.
But it was right after Mike Sullivan said that he's marketing the warehouse. He did say that.
But the warehouses could be all over the county. There's other parcels of land.
But
so,
that's
you know.
not what he was talking about. I asked specifically about those particular aquifers.
If I believe you were late to the meeting and.
And it doesn't matter about
We explained this
I asked the same
process
question.
10 times at this meeting, so it's really getting like repetition. This is before the township supervisors, we've told you this before, they are the ones who zoned the property for this type of use.
Okay.
It's out there.
I'm gonna make a final statement.
Go ahead, make one.
Okay. That, is it not your job to target these in the appropriate places, not on top of an aquifer? You should be, as a, as your board, as a chairman or as commissioners, you should be looking for properties and placing them in appropriate places, not for any Tom, Dick, or Harry, you come and put anything anywhere. All right?
That's township supervisor's jobs.
That's their,
That's their
Yeah,
job.
and
Sorry to tell you, they identify the property, it's state law, they identify the property, that this is an appropriate place where they think maybe a warehouse can go. Not to say it's gonna go, it's not our job to do that.
But you're inviting them. You're marketing, or
We're not marketing.
you're sending out SOSs. I don't know how you.
they come to the county and ask, do you have any property?
And don't you? Isn't it your responsibility to say, yes, this is appropriate, but no, aquifer is not appropriate?
That's the township supervisor's job.
No, I think it's yours too.
Well, okay,
Because it's, you know what?
we've had this
But
discussion.
you know, no, you know what? It's in your comprehensive plan. It says it. It says it in your comprehensive plan. Over and over, there's statements in there about growing, with protecting the aquifer and growing so that we do not destroy our water resources. So yes, I do believe you should be there accepting the ones that are right for appropriate places and saying no things that are not.
No, according to you.
No, I think according to the voter taxpayers, I think.
I don't know how I can determine that some use on some property would be, I'm just.
Well, it's
I'm gonna say that if the Pike County Commissioners were to, on a case-by-case basis,
Yes.
receive information about people who are interested in the purchase of private property, and to themselves, acting completely outside of the scope of their authority, to veto or, nix any potential private sale of property, I think that would be a problem for the commissioners.
And the CPA.
Might be a condemnation.
Right,
Actually-
I think that's exactly what that would be.
Actually, no, in the Association for Commissioners, one of the goals is that they should be properly cited in places, all right? So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And yes, they should have a say, and they do, through your comments about what's going on up at my Milford Township. But you have responsibilities. You can't say, oh, we're gonna just invite them here, put them there. We have no say, we're not leaders. Let them put it there.
We're not telling you to put it there. The township supervisors have the final say. There's not one vote that's gonna come out of this board or the EDA. You were at the last meeting, you asked these same things. We told you, we don't vote. The township, the process is going through, Vito. Whether I come out and say tomorrow I'm opposed to the warehouse or not opposed to the warehouse, has nothing to do with this. The township supervisors are gonna make this decision. You keep on holding up this
Acknowledge your part.
I have no part.
And here's the minutes that show it, that you are.
Every business in the county that comes through EDA, we give them the invitation to come to Pike County and see if they can open up. There's a couple of applications right now that I know of that are going on in Shahola and Dinmans and Delaware. They're all going on. But it's gonna be up to the supervisors to determine whether they think it's appropriate for their township and whether it meets their ordinance.
So you're not gonna acknowledge that you have a say in inviting these people here?
I think we just told you how the process works.
I
We don't
understand
invite
the
them. I
process.
don't go out, I'm not out there on the street asking people to come here. The letters are coming in, the requests are coming in to Mike Sullivan daily on emails that say,
Mike uses the terminology that he is marketing. He uses that term.
after he gets the inquiries, he is. Yep, I've been telling you a story if I wasn't. That's his job, is to market economic development in Pike County, to bring
And all I'm
businesses
saying
into the
is,
community. They may not like the businesses, but they have a right to inquire whether they can come here.
all I'm saying is he should invite businesses for the proper place. All right, and is it not true that in the last meeting you said it's Milford Township's fault that all this is happening?
I've said that Milford Township is zoned. If you want to use it as fault, that's
Oh,
fine.
you said it.
Okay, you know what, I don't remember verbatim, but you know what? It is their responsibility to zone it. So if you want to think that why it's zoned for a warehouse is somebody's fault, okay, the township, I didn't zone it. And it's been zoned like this for 40 years. It's not like they did it yesterday. And there's been numerous occasions where people have come up there to try to build something and they've left that same
But don't you
zoning.
think if you have it in your comprehensive plan?
I don't supersede zoning.
Yes, it does actually.
No, it does not.
No, it does not.
No, it does not.
Well, it
I'm not-
it parallels, it has a say.
It's a suggestion and even to
Yes.
an extent some recommendations. But it is
Recommendations.
absolutely not binding on municipalities. I
Okay.
practiced land use law for 42
So
years.
what I'm trying to say is you're wrong. Now, in this respect.
Chris, you got something?
Yeah. Mike Sullivan is the executive director. He carries out the business and like you described it very well. What's the role of the board, the EDA board? What is their role vis-a-vis the executive director?
They listen to his recommendations and go through the packet. They, there's a member here, I'm not gonna put anybody on the spot of it, but we go through what his packet is and what he's doing to make sure that they agree with what he's doing in the county. And there's never an objection to what he's doing, because it's within the purview of the Economic Development Authority to do economic development, to look. He does studies on migration into the county, who's moving here. Businesses will call him and say, even local businesses that are here already will
Is
ask.
that like advice and consent? I mean, what legally? Like, pose that to Tony and Mr. Oliver.
What's the
Legally,
question?
what are the legal responsibilities of, like, lots of business have boards, I don't know what they call them, board of directors. Are you board of directors?
Mhm.
Okay. what legally are the responsibilities? Is it like advising consent? Is it like, you can hire and fire, you can fire Mike, right?
The board can, I
The
can't.
board can.
The board can, correct.
I'm now speaking,
Yes,
the
they can.
collective you,
They could.
They
or
can.
the collective you. Okay, so, knowing that, you, apparently, if you have that, then you could also direct Mr. Sullivan and tell him about the politics of things. It's almost like he's hands off. Well, if that's the case, then there shouldn't be a board of directors. Why have a board of directors if you don't steer the actions of your employee?
Well, if he was acting inappropriately, yes, you'd be right. Right. You'd be right. I've been attending meetings for the last year, a little over a year now. Have we suggested ideas about things that he could do? We have. Events that we've been somewhat involved with where the EDA sponsored something, for example. But in terms of specifically saying, oh, don't market this property or only market that property, they've never done that while I've been here.
Look, as the saying goes, the horse is out of the barn now. These issues are now before the townships.
That's correct.
And they've had, and they're before their planning commissions, and there's been, presentations and hearings and on. So that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But looking down the pike, is there possibility that the board, with their advice and consent, could say to their employee, look, we have to be more careful because this is politically bad. There's signs all over the place.
So what businesses would we decide that he should do and not do? That he should pursue?
Yeah,
Which one are we gonna pick?
Just to clarify the question, I think the question presumes that there's something that he's doing that is not in the interest of the economic development of Pike County.
I can answer that.
So
Because the economic development has to function inside the values of the county. You can't, they're gonna work on some of this zoning stuff, Maybe they're gonna change the zoning. It's pretty clear that, putting 84 there I guess it had to happen. It has to be near Milford, it has to be near Route 6. Unfortunately, it's near water supply. And we're stuck with that. I'm not a resident, but it scared me that you guys are stuck with that. So somehow, it seems to me that's it.
But there's a legal process. The state has made it clear. In fact, there have been attempts since I've been practicing law, which is since 1980, for the counties to say, why don't we start doing the zoning instead of municipalities? And every time it's been shot down by the legislature. I agree with that, to be honest with you. Jason's been doing the same type of work that I did for many years, the last 20 years more or less. And quite frankly, that's because the idea is that it should be a locally controlled decision as to how land is used. That's what zoning's all about. It's land use, okay? And so they decide those things, not the county, all right? The county does do a comprehensive plan to say, gee, how might we develop in the future? Because there may well be growth. In fact, we might want growth. Growth helps to increase the tax base. But the idea that the county should be the one controlling that, or deciding whose property should be marketed and who shouldn't, Jason brought up a good point. That could affect, somebody could say, wait a minute, you're interfering with my right to sell property. But one other thing, there is a process. Just because something's zoned does not mean it will be built. And in fact, one of the best things about the local is the local knows that there's an aquifer there. The municipality knows there's an aquifer there. Better than, these guys, Matt doesn't exactly know every piece of inch of Green Township, even though he's been a commissioner for years. I definitely don't know every part of Lehman Township, even though I've been in this county for a while. But they have the right to say, if this is going to have a substantial adverse impact on the community, either the health or general welfare of the community, and water is a critical element, they have a right to deny that. But if they just deny it because of a show of hands, because a few people keep saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, they're going to lose that case.
Right. These people are persistent, obviously. Matt says that. every time there's an opening, town comes through, competition. There's a lot of talk about takings of property. There's talk of getting state legislators and other decision makers to get grants or to protect the property. What's the role of the commissioners in that? Are you engaging in that in any way? Are you talking to these people about that?
Be honest with you, and I'm not the solicitor for the county, but I would be very wary of interacting on trying to decide how that property should be used when there's a pending application.
Because of a pending application.
Now, if somehow it gets denied, and I think there's a possibility that could happen, yes, could it get approved? There might be a fight over that too. Either way, I think it's probably going to end up in an appeal. I've been in this business for a while. I know what's going to happen. Sometimes there's an opportunity, if that's happening, to say, is there a way to come up with an alternative?
So this one in Milford Township ultimately goes into courts and NLD or whatever the National Developers is. Okay, there's one across the street, same problem, or somewhere around there.
Could be.
Meantime, but it's not, is it in an application process now? No.
I'm not aware of any,
Okay,
but I don't represent, I didn't do that for Milford
then
Township
the
for years, but I
county
don't
or the
now.
commissioners getting involved and saying, look, we've been through this, the court costs have been immense, I don't know who paid the other side of the case, and all that. Could then the county say, yeah, we're gonna, it's obvious that this is very controversial and we think we should, do something about what, can you do that? You could do that, right? You could.
But I'm not sure what you're asking that we might do, and I don't want to prejudge what's going to happen or speculate what's going to happen in the future.
There's no application.
It's too open-ended, yes. There, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't. And if the township, by the way, I'm arguing a case tonight, if the township, by the way, decided they wanted to amend their ordinance, and they didn't even adopt it right away, there's a thing called the pending ordinance doctrine that would say if you want to develop your property, you got to be able to comply with whatever the new amendment is. So if the township really felt that there was a need to reevaluate how those properties are zoned, they could do so. They can't do it on the one that's already in, but they could do it on others.
Chris, I can answer part of your question about the authority. So the Economic Development Authority is an authority, all right? They get their authority from the Municipal Planning Code. And in the Municipal Planning Code, it says an authority, which they are, is supposed to represent and fall under...
I'm going to have to stop you, Vito. You're wrong. The Municipalities Planning Code does not deal with economic development authorities. That's under the Municipal Authorities Act of 1945.
45.
Okay, but that's not the Municipalities Planning Code, which does regulate zoning and subdivision issues.
So the authority, though...
But if you're going to be the expert on something, you should get it right.
Okay, well, I missed it by a little bit. All right, so
different law, yeah.
Well, it's a law, okay? So under that law, it says the authority is supposed to represent the health, safety, and welfare of the community, okay? And I will argue that placing and wherever you are, advertising, accepting bids, conflicts with the mission and the law, 47 or 45, that says you are to be protecting the health and safety of the community. I think that conflicts with it. So there is statutory things in there that should be guiding the EDA and how they do their policies. So yeah, I think Chris is right. There is some statutory things on there. So with that, I think I haven't said enough, and I will leave that out there.
Thank you.
Yep. Just say your name.
Yes. Kevin Holian, second homeowner, Pike County resident, Kingman Township. I own about 19 acres in Dingham Township, some of which is on either side of Sawkill Creek, because I bought it years ago from Drew Snyder when he had the land up by Sawkill Pond, which some people call Sawkill Lake. So I think I have a right and a need to counterbalance the last half-hour discussion. Matt and myself have probably a Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed relationship. All right. The thing is, I am Rocky. We've known each other for many, many years. And my prior service in the federal government, I learned how to risk assess, do independent verification and validation, and most importantly, knew how to put back on a member of Congress or a senator when I was called up on the Hill. I don't know Tony that well. I do know Randy and Matt.
It's wrong.
Sorry about that. I told you I was a little bit nervous. These group of people, including Krista and you're Jason, right? Tom, when he's not here, are probably some of the most respectful and loving and caring people that can be found in Pike County. I've put them up against the wall on so many topics over the years in a rather aggressive way at times, and at times not fully aware and knowledgeable of every aspect of municipal government. Because I never worked in municipal government, I worked in the federal government. These two men, plus I'm pretty sure Tony as well, you have to trust them and respect them. They never BS me, they never lied to me. They set me straight when I needed to be set straight. So I just want to make sure that the public knows there's two sides to every freaking story, and the one side with respect to this group of individuals needs to be held very highly. With respect to Mike Sullivan, I knew him years ago when we first started the work fairs up at Best Western, and I think he had come from Orange County. That guy doesn't need to work for Pike County. He doesn't, but he does. And he gives it his all. He really does. So I know this might jeopardize things that are going on in my personal life from a legal standpoint, but I really don't care. I really want people to know that Matt has probably every right in the world to want to sometimes take me out in the back and, go fist to fist. You showed me deep disrespect during COVID, giving me information about COVID and what the county is doing. So please, if anybody in this room has a thought in the back of the head that these men and women are doing anything underhanded or deceitful or don't deserve your trust, get it out of your heads, okay? God bless you guys.
Kevin? Thank you. Teresa?
Thanks again for giving us the time to speak. I really appreciate it.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Oh, and my name is Teresa Brown.
I didn't get it here.
I'm Teresa Brown. I'm a resident of Pike County, Milford. I have really nothing to say about the economic development, but I moved here from Tucson, Arizona, and there were a lot of people who didn't want any kind of growth there. And we absolutely have to protect the aquifer and our resources. But we also need to be careful not to just adamantly try and stop growth, because that isn't good for the community either. And I think we need a Costco.
Okay. I don't do one of the pet codes, just so you know. So we're transparent.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today picks up on our last discussion. Those who don't know history are destined to repeat it. America's founders were escaping tyranny. They were Christians who were led by God and who studied the greatest history ever known to man, and that is the Bible. Now we look around and we see a complete and total erosion of our borders, our economy, our country, and the freedoms that have made America the greatest country in the world. The so-called patriots here in this room are not here as haters who want to victimize any oppressed class. We're here because we're fighting for the freedoms granted through the written Constitution to protect the God-given rights and freedom of every American citizen. When we deviate from biblical values, when we attempt to shut God out of the room and do things our own way, it does not end well. The story of David, Solomon, and Saul tells us how God saved Israel from an enemy much greater than itself. And after they were saved, Israel clamored for a king so they could be like other countries. God told them he would give them a king, but the king would be flawed, corrupt, would treat them badly, tyrannically. The people didn't care. They wanted a king because following a corrupt leader who let you cheat and get away with stuff was more appealing than taking personal responsibility for our sins. So they got a king and it didn't end well. Today we see people willing to give up our God-given freedoms so we can be as bad or worse than every other country in the world. They're winning, but I fear none of us will like the prize. Last meeting, someone here told us about his Catholic upbringing and his biblical studies. He told us the Bible does not mention homosexuality. On the contrary, the Bible is full of admonitions against homosexuality and promiscuity of any kind. Lust, along with pride, are among the 7 deadly sins. Romans 18 states in part, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them." In other words, God gave us a conscience to know right from wrong, to discern good from evil. We can lie to one another all we want, but sooner or later we will face God's judgment, and he may not be so gullible. Romans 18 goes on, "For since the creation of the world, this invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man." We just see so much of this happening in our culture and in our society and in our country today. Therefore, God also gave them up to uncleanness in the lusts of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions, for even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust for one another, men with men committing what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. It goes on. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness, and it continues from there. As I started out, you know, the Bible is full of history, and I think it would do us all good to look at it more closely. There are people today who feel empowered by their ability to lead others into destruction and decay. And we've all seen what happens when evil takes hold. So I just want to say, in Jesus' name, we do not want Milford to become another San Francisco, another Seattle, another Portland, another New York City, and we don't want it to become Sodom and Gomorrah. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Any other public? Okay.
My name is Alexander Letivori, and I am a Dingman's Ferry resident. First of all, Ron, how do I pronounce your last name? I've heard people say it.
Smallsley.
Schmalsey?
Smallsley.
Smallsley. Okay. All right. Thank you. I want to start off first by thanking the board. I wasn't here at the last meeting because I was on a really nice holiday, but I really appreciated the comments by all of you, and I just appreciate what you're doing, you know, working with diversity and everything like that. I feel like the conversations you're having are important, and I feel like you guys are on the right track, and I'm really grateful, really. And I also want to thank, I know Solicitor Farley's not here, but he defended me at the meeting that I was at, and my friend who was sitting next to me, and I just really appreciate, even though I didn't mind answering the question, I just appreciate that kind of that protective, you know, no, you don't treat them like that, kind of just, I'm grateful for that, thank you. So I would like to address some misinformation and illogical arguments that were made at the last meeting. This is not an attack on the board or an attack on anybody. It's just basically righting some wrongs. LGBT plus was said by someone at the last meeting that the plus stands for pedophilia and other deviations. And I'm here to say that that's not true. There is no legitimate LGBT organization that would welcome pedophiles. It's actually a right-wing extremist attempt to delegitimize us, and it's been going on for a while. It's not a sexuality. When we say love is love, and people go, well, what about pedophiles? It's like, that's not even love to begin with. We're talking consenting love. Also, equating LGBT to what goes on behind closed doors to me is a very narrow way of looking at relationships. Most of the LGBT community is not about sex, and I really wish we could move away from some of that. There is an important part that is, but I mean the I in LGBTQIA stands for intersex, which are people who have both genitalia, medically speaking. A stands for asexual, which is actually a spectrum of sexuality that involves very little to no sex. These are people who are put off by even the mere idea of it. And they're part of our community because they don't fit into what is called a heteronormative structure. You know, how many times growing up have you heard your parents or family, other family or friends or even strangers go, so do you have a special week in your life, or when are you going to get married? You know, I'm looking forward to having grandkids. And these are all things that not everybody wants to do. And a lot of asexual people have no interest in that. And they do feel a little bit ostracized, even if they are not legally discriminated against most of the time. It's an inclusive environment for people who have maybe no interest in these things. So equating LGBT to sex is just really weird to me. There's so much more to our community than that. There was also some commentary about pride and about like being better than other people. Pride is not about being better than anybody. We don't believe that at all. We want to be treated the same as everybody. That's the whole point. Our rights have been jeopardized for so long that we just want to be seen as equals. Like, we want the same rights. And that's how it's always been. It's about, the pride part comes in the fact that we've survived all of this persecution in spite of everything being thrown at us. I mean, we've had the AIDS crisis, which is very controversial, which, by the way, nowadays heterosexual couples have higher rates of AIDS than non-heterosexual. So just for your information. You know, we've had that, we've had to be in the closet, you know, we've had homosexuality being declared a mental illness to the point that people in Sweden used it as an excuse to call out of work. And eventually the Swedish government was like, yeah, I guess it's not a mental disorder anymore, because they realized it wasn't, if you can use it to call out of work. Pride has nothing to do with about being better than anybody. We're in an inclusive space. So when we propose legislation that specifically identifies people in our community, it is not to be better than the default heterosexual, cisgendered, whatever person. It's to be on the same plane, and we're not there yet. We didn't start this culture war, okay? We simply existed for thousands of years, and we have historical and archaeological records to prove our existence, all the way back down to Sumer and Canaan and you know, ancient Israel. I mean, even Judaism talks about multiple genders. It's like 6 to 8. I don't even remember the specific number. And you know, I just wanted to let people know, pride, if you want to come have fun and just relax and be in a safe environment with people who are not going to argue, you know, join us for pride. I think you might have a lot of fun. Also, rainbows are pretty. I also want to clarify a comment that I made at the last meeting too about cishet white male. So I was referring to a Republican friend of mine. Cis just means that the gender in your head matches, you know, your genitals. It is a scientifically neutral term. It is not derogatory. Heterosexual, obviously you know what that means. And of course, white male, and of course he's a Republican. But I wasn't using these labels to be insulting or, you know, or trying to like separate him or whatever. I was using these terms to prove that human rights are nonpartisan or bipartisan, or they should not be Republican or Democrat, okay? Human rights are all rights for all of us. And the fact that, I mean, in the LGBTQ community here, I'll just say queer community for shorter purposes. The queer community here, we do have allies that are cishet white men, but they're usually already left-wing, because right now a lot of the anti-LGBT legislation is being passed by Republicans. But I know Republicans who don't care about the queer community in the sense that they don't have any issues with us. I was on holiday on, you know, the Cape Cod recently, and you know, I was hanging out with people of both parties, and even like Trumpers and other Republicans there were just like, live and let live. You know, you do you. I don't care what you are. Just live your life. And I feel like those are the Republicans and that I grew up with, you know, here in the United States, outside of my high school time in Georgia, which that was really interesting. But you know, I wasn't using these terms to be insulting. Okay, if I say that you are cisgendered and heterosexual, I'm literally just describing what you are scientifically speaking. And I don't think that's any better or worse than what I am. I mean, that would be ridiculous. I care about people, genuinely. You know, and the fact that my friend was able to be like, you know, when he was campaigning, he had the You Belong sign, and he knew that that would lose him votes, especially among some of his extremist or extreme friends and associates, and he knew that, and he still was like, no, everyone belongs, you all matter. It's like the issue with Black Lives Matter. I know a lot of people here are like, oh, I don't, whatever. It's not that Black Lives matter more than anybody else's. It's that in history, Black lives haven't mattered. So now we're trying to make it so that they matter just as much as everybody else's. And this goes for all minorities. The human race is beautiful, people. We should celebrate it. And many of the Republicans I've met here in Pike County are either one, just unaware of what's going on, and that's okay, two, just simply uneducated. I've been asked some questions, it does come from a place of ignorance, but it also comes because they're asking me, they're coming from a place of learning. And I'm perfectly okay with helping to educate people on these things. And also people who do support LGBT, but they're too afraid to do so because we do have gun cults in this area, and we do have, the Proud Boys, and we have had threats and harassment and things like that. But I mean, most of the people I know do support us, and they are Republican, they are Christian, they are devout. So I wanted to say that this is not a left-wing ideal. Also, LGBT laws involve protecting everybody. There are Jewish people in the queer community. There are Black people in the queer community. There's Indigenous people in the queer community. Asian. Our histories go back to every section of the globe where human civilization has lived and thrived. The Indigenous, actually, the Dine, or also known as the Navajo tribe, even have a word called Nadleje, which means two-spirited. The Lakota also have a two-spirited role, which is sort of like a transgender thing, but it's multiple genders in one body. And these people are revered, and they're often on the councils of these tribes. And the thing is it's always been like this. It's the only reason why I think people are getting so up in arms is because there's just a lack of education on how far back we go and how diverse we are as a species. Because we've been silenced for so long. It's been proven that when an LGBT law is passed, protecting LGBT, it protects all minorities. It makes an entire place safer. We know this when it comes to schools, too. When LGBT students are protected, it goes to the entire student body. So, it's not pie. Rights for LGBT doesn't take away from anybody else. And it doesn't make anybody less Christian. I am going to speak a little bit about the Bible, just not too long. I mean, obviously we have the separation of church and state, but even so, these verses have all kinds of interpretations. I've lived in 5 different countries, and as of 2019, I've visited 40 countries across 5 continents. When I was younger, I spent time in Italy, and I actually spoke with Vatican scholars. And we talked about the homosexuality factor. Leviticus is the Old Testament, so a lot of people don't go by the Old Testament as much. But also Romans, there are several different interpretations of those verses anyway. That's not necessarily bashing homosexuality, it's bashing the idea of having sex not for procreation purposes, or for people who take pleasure in it. And that people taking pleasure in intercourse is not a homosexual thing. This is a human thing, process. And again, this whole sexual thing, it just feels so puritanical. Like, can we focus on other aspects, please? And also there's just a lot of cherry picking of Bible verses. I mean, you're not allowed to wear mixed cloth. You're allowed to stone your neighbor if they work on the Sabbath. You can sell your daughter to her rapist. There's all kinds of draconian verses in the Bible that people don't follow. And I don't understand why they're picking on these couple of verses when they're not even following the rest of the Bible anyway. The closest country I've seen to some of the draconian laws in the Bible is actually the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which I know a lot about and have studied intensely and have had a lot of friends there. I mean, that's a religious society, and a lot of their laws are very similar to laws that are in the Bible. But everyone here would agree that the KSA is not a model country to model a society after, but that's what happens when you take away people's freedoms to be religiously diverse and identity diverse, you know? And this whole thing like pride being a sin. Well, you're proud to be American, are you not? That's pride. That's not anything different, and it's still pride. Like, the Bible doesn't differentiate between being proud of being queer or being proud of a nation. It's still pride. We just simply existed. And most economically happy countries tend to have the most egalitarian laws. The most stable countries in the world with the most freedoms have the most egalitarian laws. Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, Denmark, Netherlands, New Zealand, even Germany, though Germany has its own problems too. These countries are not perfect by any means. And I've lived in some of these countries, and I've often felt like I've had more freedom there than I do here. America is not rated #1 in most categories. I think we're rated 1 and 2 largest military in the world, right? Out of the next, 26 countries combined, most of whom are allies. And our prison system, most incarcerated adults. And maybe people who believe in angels, but I haven't verified that one. I just think we need to work together to improve, this area and this country for everybody. It's not about being better, it's about equality and equity. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm really easy to contact, reach me on Facebook. I also volunteer with Triversity. That's what I think. And I say this as somebody who is studying biology. I'm back in school, and I'm a young millennial. And I think the human race is something to celebrate. And I wish more people would join me.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else? Pierre?
Yes, I need to make a few comments on what was said. And what is the real issue today? The real issue why so many parents are
Name.
here tardy.
He said
He
it.
said his name,
Pierre Tardy.
I can't hear.
Pierre Tardy.
T-A-R-D-Y.
The reason we're having this situation now is because of children. Many parents are reacting in school board all over the country because they don't want their children to be sexualized when they are innocent children, and they don't want pornography to be in school. So otherwise, parents will not be so involved. But that's why we have a very backlash, and there's a feeling of tension. That's really, I think, the roots of the situation. Children want to protect their parents want to protect their children, especially when you see a child, 7-year-old, they're innocent, they don't need this. And we have a lot of problems. For instance, Homeland Security lost 85,000 children. They don't know where they are. We have a lot of situations, and of human trafficking, everything is coming to the surface. So this is actually, I heard that 2 meetings ago, one person saying that there were over 417 laws against gays in America being proposed. If you look at the story, most of those laws are about protecting children in school, education. So we have to make sure that we don't think that there's an anti-gay, anti-LGBT. It's really parents want to protect children. I think this will always come back again. Now, the issue of LGBTQ. Now, the word Q, that's the one nobody knows really what it means. And if you study the queer theorists, those who wrote the official documents, going back all the way to Foucault in France, and queer, I mean, I just wrote something here, because we cannot deny the reality. It says, queer, it is to be against everything that is normal. It is about violating every boundary. It is about breaking down every category. People think that queer means being nice to LGBT people. That's not true. The Q is the key word. We understand L, B, G, B, T, the Q. So when we say that people say, oh, it's not about pedophilia or incest. Actually, queer is about everything. Everything which is against what is normal. And we have to look at those who wrote the document, not what we think it is, using their own words. And that is, this is a big issue. So I think just as a summary of what I said, which I don't plan to speak today, but anyway, it's about children. It's not about me. My grandparents are concerned, parents are concerned, but it's about kids. And it's about understanding exactly when people say things, what really they mean. And the Q is a very important word. We have to understand what it means. And of course, somebody can say that I'm saying lying, but just read the books and read the documents. This is the real issue. So, I mean, that's all I want to say today.
Thank you. Who else? John?
Hi, John Hellman, Vice President of Triversity. Just two quick things to not belabor the meeting because it's a really beautiful day outside. Number one, I have a master's in queer theory. The quote from what queer is technically correct, but it's completely out of context. Just like the term gay meant happy in the 1920s, and GLBT has gay, it doesn't mean the same thing. So if you want more conversation about queer theory, I'm happy to share my master's thesis about with you. And the second thing, the biggest hypocrisy, contradiction, and deception that the far right has is that they're claiming that this is for children. If they really were concerned about children, they would be focusing on the #1 killer of kids from 0 to 18 in this country, which is firearms, or the #1 perpetrator of sexual assault against minors, which is heterosexual cisgender people related to the victim. So stop gaslighting us into thinking that you're about the children, because it falls flat under the tiniest bit of scrutiny. Thanks.
Okay.
I've heard quite a few things here.
Just state your name.
My name is Timothy Daniels. I'm a resident of Pike County.
Okay.
And I would like to address them all, but I would rather be brief and say, you've heard two sides. You've heard some biblical scripture. You've heard some statements from people who call themselves gay or bi or whatever the correct thing is. The bottom line is very simple. In the back of your wall here, you got a picture of the Constitution. The mention of the Constitution. This country was founded on the Bible and the Judeo-Christian beliefs. It's my belief that because they adhered to those, and it wasn't every single person, obviously, and you have people involved, not everybody's on the same side. We were a Judeo-Christian nation, we were blessed. There's a great book out called The 5,000-Year Leap, which explains we went from using fires and iron tools to landing on the moon in 250 years. That's the 5,000-year leap of technology that we've had. That happened, I believe, because we had the blessings of God. I'm a person who believes that God is who he says he is. And he's the one who determines right and wrong. When I develop an opinion, I don't develop my own opinion. I quoted for you last week, or last meeting, Leviticus that tells you about in Leviticus 18:22. So, bottom line is, Jesus Christ said you were either for me or you were against me. In the ancient times before Constantine, every part of the known world was ruled by pagan gods. Aphrodite, Zeus, Adonis, so on and so forth. There was many of them. I'm sure some people love to study mythology. It all goes back to three gods for worship: Baal, Moloch, and Ishtar. Ishtar was the one who had the pride. Ishtar was the one responsible for gender transition. Ishtar was involved with a lot of these pagan rituals that were, by Western civilization, was overcome. We changed our way of life. Now we have a choice. Are we going to support what honors, whether you were aware of it or not, you honor the pagan gods by putting up a misrepresentation of the rainbow that was created by God as a sign of mercy. Now we've transitioned that to mean something different. Or do you want to stick with what God is, where we are? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jesus said there's no middle ground. You are for me or you are against me. You are in one of those camps. In the end of Romans it says, if you stand to decide, I'm paraphrasing here, if you take no position, you are against me. You can't say, oh, well, this is acceptable, but, I know God thinks it's an abomination, but, people are people or whatever. You can't do that. So you guys, as commissioners and leaders in this county, if you're going to take a side, it's going to be one or the other. You're either going to defend what the founders believed, or you're going to defend this new pagan rise of religion. That's your two choices. So I would just suggest that every time you make a decision, have that in the back of your mind. This is what the difference between good and evil, what God calls evil. And that's basically all I wanted to say, and thank you guys. God bless you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Carrie Williams. I'm a resident of Pike County, and I actually wasn't planning on speaking today, so I'll do my best to speak off the cuff. But I want to kind of follow up on what Pierre was saying, that really, I've been thinking more and more about this. It really is about protecting our children and to prevent the sexualization of our children. Alexander, I did notice you said LGBT, you didn't say Q, but when John was here the last time, he used LGBTQ quite often. And the truth is, whether you have a master's degree in queer theory or not, queer is interpreted by many scholars as being just what Pierre said, is really disrupting all the norms in society, all sexual norms. And there have been many scholars who have said that pedophilia should be normalized. I'm not saying that you guys are promoting this, but what I'm saying is the LGBTQ community is more and more giving it another name, minor attracted person. And even at Delaware Valley, they flew the flag, the LGBTQ flag, that now some of the flags has pink and blue in it. And if you're not aware of that, it means being attracted to young boys and young girls.
That means transgender. That's ridiculous.
Well, it means, for many people, it means that. So you're allowed to have your own interpretation. The point I'm trying to make is that we really are about protecting our children, and that there is an effort underway for that to happen. I don't want to speak long, it's almost 12:30, but you should know that there are a push by individuals, some of whom in this room, to adopt books like Gender Queer in our library at Delaware Valley, which is pornographic material. And what often comes up at the school board meetings, I know this is not a school board meeting, but what often comes up at the school board meetings is, oh, well, if you don't want your child to get a certain book, you can let us know. But you know, there have been people here that have asked right to know to certain books in the library. We're not given we're not given books. We don't even know half the books that are there. So please understand, it comes from the heart of the parent, it comes from the heart of the grandparent to want to protect our children. And I really think love and respect is, for everyone here, is what is needed. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right, one more. You'll be here all day.
No, I'll be quick. I'm Miss Emery Scheidner, and I'm a Milford borough resident. And I actually am coming in kind of representation of our group. I don't know if any of you know that it's called Unity in the Community. The group got started after the really tumultuous election between Sean and I. And Sean reached out to me and said, we have so much division going on in our community, such a small little area, that we honestly need to try to, join forces and figure this out of how to bring back the unity in the community. So we have been doing that, and we've actually now become a 501c3, which we're very grateful for. And so we do have a mission statement, and we do have a pledge. I'd like to give it to you guys if you would like it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
So the biggest thing for us, I'll read the mission statement, I'll be real quick, guys. So our mission statement is that we are a group of diverse individuals with different backgrounds committed to preserving the quality of life in Milford and its surrounding communities. We believe cultivating the mutual understanding and respect for all community members, regardless of one's cultural background, political beliefs, and/or religious affiliation, is vital to accomplishing this. Our belief is that change happens best when rooted locally. We are a very small community, obviously. And then we have a pledge that we've adopted, and that is, I commit to treating others as I would like to be treated. I commit to practicing active listening, seeking first to understand, then to be understood. I commit to asking questions to clarify and better understand a differing opinion. I commit to being a respectful speaker by speaking clearly, concisely, and to the topic at hand, so that others have the opportunity to participate in the conversation or meeting. I commit to avoiding negative labeling of others based on politics, religion, gender, sexual orientation, etc. I commit to being respectful in my responses, no matter how much I may disagree. So our bottom line is that we're all different. My biggest thing, everyone is quoting the Bible. I believe that the biggest command in the Bible is to just love one another. Just love. That's honest to God, the biggest commandment. Love one another. It doesn't matter what or who or what your beliefs are. How about we just love each other? And if we show love, it will just radiate. We don't need all this division and all this hate and all this labeling. We are all just people of God, or whoever you believe, whatever your belief is. But the biggest command in the Bible is to love. Just love one another. And if you love one another, smile at everyone and agree to disagree, and stop fighting with your friends and your family over politics and what your belief is. Just love each other and accept them and respect them for whatever their belief is, because that's really how God made us, right? We are all different. So I was not at the last meeting, I was on vacation, hence why I'm so tan. But the last meeting talked about, why don't we just adopt love and respect? We have a group that is all about love and respect, not categorizing anyone, not asking you to to do anything but just love one another. So we're kind of promoting to Pike County, why don't you just adopt unity in the community and promote these sort of things to take place and not to be fighting amongst each other continuously. I swear, it's like nationwide and the whole world is done with it. We just want to get back to loving one another and not pushing, which seems to be happening, pushing everyone's thoughts as the thoughts that should be everyone's thoughts. How about we just accept each other, agree to disagree, and just show love to one another in whatever environment you're in. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.